We have Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee. Congressman Andy Ogles, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Congressman, Speaker Mike Johnson floating the idea of this laddered CR, a relatively new concept to the public. What should we know about it?
Well, so the laddered CR could be structured any number of ways. But for example, you could have, you have 12 appropriations bills, and for argument's sake or conversation's sake, you could break it into three different segments of four each, and each one of those would have a different period of time. But what that does, that allows you to maybe some of your major appropriations, your defense and some of those you could extend past Christmas. Some of the other ones that maybe need more work as we move forward, you could have a shorter timeline. But what it does is it allows a conference to move the appropriations over to the Senate and continue to work on making the bills better for the American people. We all know we have crisis in this country. We've got a southern border that's wide open. We have spending that's out of control. So we in the House of Representatives, we have the power of the purse. It's time for us to leverage it. And the laddered CR is a potential way of doing that.
Congressman, you and some of your colleagues are not in favor of what's being called a clean short-term funding patch. Why do you oppose it, and what do you think needs to be done?
Well, I mean, it's business as usual. I mean, we have, roughly almost $35 trillion in debt, largely funded by continuing resolutions that do nothing to address spending, that cater to special interest and bloated budgets. And so we've got to have something for the American people to say that we acknowledge and we recognize the problems and troubles facing this country. And so you can't have business as usual. You've got to have some sort of cut. You have to have something that secures the border, because, again, what's at stake is the 24 election. What's at stake is the economy, the future of our country and the republic itself. And so it's time for us to signal to our foreign adversaries and our allies that we take our budget seriously, and we're going to keep our fiscal house in order as we move forward as the sole superpower, the leader of the free world. And it's time we start acting like it. And so a continuing resolution that's quote unquote clean simply means bloated budgets and more wasteful spending.
And to that point, Congressman, many conservatives were outraged by the $1.7 trillion omnibus that Congress passed in December of last year. Senate and House Republicans have vowed since the end of last year not to approve another massive omnibus spending package. But there are only 3 full weeks left in December after the Thanksgiving recess and before Christmas break. How likely is it to avoid another omnibus? And what does it mean to everyday Americans if another one does get passed?
Yeah. So that's why we have to pass some sort of funding mechanism that takes us beyond Christmas, because this is what typically happens. The Senate will wait to the very last minute, literally right before Christmas Eve. They'll send over some boondoggle spending package, like you said, last December, almost $2 trillion. And they count on the fact that people want to get home to their families and will basically vote for whatever. And so we've got to have something, whether it's the laddered CR approach, maybe it's a continuing resolution that takes us to January 19th, that has some sort of border security attached to it. Maybe we see some sort of debt commission that's bicameral, meaning it's House and Senate. But there's some things that we can do to, one, get us through the Christmas holiday, but also reassure the American people that we're serious about our budget. And look, and again, I'll say this, I've said it once, I'll say it again, a clean CR is a no-go. I'll vote against it. I'm kind of a never CR guy, but never say never, because the clock is not working for us right now. It's working against us. So we did lose about three to 4 weeks during the motion to vacate, which was the new speaker election. And so now we're playing catch up. And so it's important we move quickly, aggressively, and we do the people's business, which is passing our budgets.
Congressman, lastly, Democratic Representative Rashida Tlaib was censured yesterday. Just before her censure, I want to play you some tape from her speech on the House floor.
My criticism has always been of the Israeli government and Netanyahu's actions. It is important to separate people and governments, Mr. Chair. No government is beyond criticism. The idea that criticizing the government of Israel is anti-Semitic sets a very dangerous precedent.
She's been accused of dog whistles and various other indirect commentary that has been, dubbed as anti-Semitic. How do you react to the Congresswoman's words on the House floor?
Well, she's not telling the truth. I'll just be quite frank with you. I mean, she literally called to eliminate the people of Israel, the state of Israel, and essentially call a call to arms, if you will. Not only are her comments dangerous and inflammatory, I think they really put the Jewish people and the Israeli people a target even more so on their back. And when you have a member of Congress saying things like that, it validates those points of view, whether here in the States or abroad in Europe. And so she needed to be censored. We need to send a message. Look, I believe in free speech, right? But when you're talking about the elimination of a free people, our biggest ally in the Middle East, one of our greatest allies in the world, there has to be accountability there. There has to be, this rhetoric of hate that she was spewing has to be, quite frankly, pointed out. It was called to order or out of order on the House floor, and we censured her as she should have been.
Congressman Andy Ogles, thank you so much.